Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Muscovy for EU4 1.32 origins. So Muscovy is a nation located in Eastern Europe, the most powerful East Slavic nation, and of course the nation that would go on to historically form Russia, and the nation which players pick the most often when wanting to form Russia. Now, even though Muscovy is such a big and powerful nation, lots of newer players might be deterred from playing from it, and I think they are, due to the fact that we border other strong nations like Novgorod, Lithuania, the Great Horde, and Kazan, and they might also be put off from their weak-ish economy at the start, and from the fact that we have to conquer lots of non-Orthodox, non-Muscovite provinces. But make no mistake, by using this guide, you will become a dominant power in no time, buff up your economy insanely, and conquer all your neighbors, and go on to form Russia. And before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot. And if you want to see more guides or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Let's take a look at what we need to do as Muscovy. So first we're gonna go into our estates and summon the Diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're gonna give the Patriarchs Religious State, Clerical Advisory Council, Clerical Ministers, and Enforced Unity of Faith. Then we're gonna give the Boyars Primacy of the Boyars, Increased Levies, and Aristocratic Councilors, along with the Boyars Integration Policy. Then we're gonna give the Burghers Land of Commerce, Patronage of the Arts, Commercial Advisory Board, and Indebted to the Burghers. And we're gonna give the Cossacks Recruit Cossack Leaders, and Prime Herding Rights. Then we're gonna activate the Encourage Development State Edict in the state of Yaroslavl right here. And we're gonna wait for 1 month so we can dev it up once in Diplo. After we do that, we're gonna sell titles and seize land. Then we're gonna go and set some rivals. Rival the nations which have already rivaled you, most importantly Novgorod of course, and then the other guys as well. Sorry I didn't put them in order once again. Then we're also gonna hire one advisor for now, a military guy, a morale or discipline guy preferably. I do have a morale guy. And we're gonna send this army right here, after we attach this Dmitry guy to them over here. And to the second army, we're gonna give our ruler military command, because he's not very good anyway. Luckily in my case, he did turn out to be a pretty good general. Now we also need to do our first mission right here, invade Novgorod, where our army needs to be 100% of our force limit, which means we need to build 10 more regiments. Now I don't know if in this patch this is a bug, but from this interface right here, from the macro builder, you can recruit Streltsy infantry before you actually raise the Streltsy from our unique government type, which of course you can raise Streltsy here. You can support this, which will impact all rebel factions by minus 30%, and you can do this one, which will give us minus 10 autonomy in all provinces. Of course, you need to fill these up before you take them, so we shouldn't be able to raise Streltsy, but from this interface right here, we can. Now, the thing about the Streltsy regiments is they don't cost any manpower, but they do increase stability cost by quite a lot. Either way, this is much better than hiring a merc company or recruiting regular regiments, so we're just gonna recruit Streltsy. It won't cost any manpower. But of course, we are gonna hire the free company as well, because we don't want to lose too much manpower when using our main armies. So there we go, that's the free company with 4 regiments there, and we're gonna hire 6 more Streltsy. There we go. Now we're gonna wait for these guys to build so we can take our first mission. At this point, we're also gonna start spying on Ryazan. And there we go, now that all of our units have recruited, we can take this mission right here, invade Novgorod, which gives us perma claims on these areas right here. I got claims on these from an estate agenda, by the way, so we only get claims on this. And now as soon as all our armies are into position, we are going to be declaring on Novgorod. By this point, you should also have enough Diplo points to dev this province right here, Kostorma, up once in Diplo, and that means we can also sell titles and seize land. And now that all our armies are into position, something like this maybe, it's time to declare on Novgorod. At this point, they could be allied to Tver, Odoyev, or Ryazan, one of those 3 nations. They won't have a strong ally, so it doesn't matter who else you're fighting. And we're gonna declare for the province of Neva right here. During this war, you can let your vassals do most of the heavy lifting while you focus on the forts. Whoever else you're fighting in this war, like Tver, Odoyev, or Ryazan, just white peace them. We'll take care of them soon enough. And of course, once you completely obliterate Novgorod, here's what we're gonna take from them. We're gonna take all the border provinces from them, so we block them off from Sweden and Denmark and anyone else expanding over here. So we're just gonna do something like this. There we go, that's all the border provinces we need, and of course for the rest of the war score we're also going to be taking other provinces. It really doesn't matter what you take from them, the aggressive expansion is negligible since they're pretty much the only big Orthodox nation we're going to be fighting, and it's not a bad idea to take their capital of Novgorod and whatever else you can. I'm going to do something like this. And that's our first war done. Now it's time to chill for about a year and wipe out these other small guys which we haven't fought, which are gonna be Tver and Odoyev in my case. So I'm gonna start spying on them. After this war, this is what my armies look like. I have the 16-4 main army right here and the secondary one which is consisted of, well actually, 8 and 2. At this point, you can also run 3 advisors. Once you've cored everything up from the first Novgorod war, it's time to declare on some of the small guys here, Tver, Odoyev, or Ryazan. It doesn't matter which one. I am gonna be declaring on Tver here and co-belligerenting Odoyev as well, since they're allied. Try to do something like this as well, and if some of them are guaranteed by someone else, like guaranteed by Lithuania or the Great Horde, it does happen sometimes, well, you can just fight them later. Fight whichever one of these guys is the easiest to fight. While this war is going on, you can start improving relations with your subjects so we can annex them as soon as we can. The first guys we're gonna annex are these 3 guys over here and this guy over here. We're gonna be annexing Perm later. I'm gonna start improving with Rostov, for example. And at this point, you can also start spying on one of the Great Horde or Kazan, depending on who looks easier to fight. In my case, the Great Horde over here, they're allied to Uzbek and Biapas, so that's like 44,000 troops I'm gonna have to fight, whereas Kazan, they're allied to Crimea and Uzbek, and they have about 49,000 troops that I am gonna have to fight. It is better to fight Kazan first because of their gold mine, but if you can't fight them first, you can fight the Great Horde first. And once you've beaten up whoever you're fighting out of these 3 guys, of course you will be full annexing them. If you're fighting 2 of them, you'll be full annexing them. If you're fighting all 3 of them, once again, you'll be full annexing them. So this is what I'm gonna take in this war. And that's our second war done. And now that my truce with Ryazan is over, I'll also be cleaning them up. I know my armies aren't maintained and my forts are down, but they don't have any troops and my vassals will do the work. And of course, once you beat up whoever is remaining out of the tiny guys, you'll be full annexing them as well. And there we go, with 1 to 3 wars versus these guys, or these guys, we've cleaned them up. Now we're gonna chill for a bit and wait to start annexing some of our subjects. After that, we're gonna be declaring on some of the hordes. Once 10 years have passed, you will start annexing your subjects. I recommend starting from the smallest, which is Rostov, and then below 0, then Yaroslavl, then Pskov, and then finally Perm. So I am gonna start annexing these guys. Once you've started annexing your subjects, it is time to declare on one of the hordes. Kazan or the Great Horde, whoever is easier to fight. Now we are gonna get a bunch of claims on them later from this mission right here, Tame the Steppes, but to get claims from that, we already need to own provinces that they have. We need to have one of these 3 provinces right here and convert it either to Muscovite culture or convert it to Orthodox. So we gotta fight them anyway, even before we get those claims. Now it is better to fight Kazan first, of course, because they have the gold mine over here in Bashgird, and that is something we want to take. But in my case, they are more powerful than the Great Horde, and they have some strong allies like Uzbek and Chagatai, so that war versus them would be a lot more annoying. So that's why I'm gonna fight the Great Horde first. Like I said, fight whoever is easiest, but preferably you would fight Kazan first. And there we go, I'm gonna declare on the Great Horde for the conquest of Tambov right here. And for this war, I've also rehired the Free Company, which at this point is larger than it was at the start. These wars shouldn't be that hard because you would have a tech advantage on these guys since they don't start off with feudalism and they probably won't have embraced Miltech 4 by now. And of course, you should definitely avoid fighting them in steppe provinces. They are hordes. And once you've defeated whoever you're fighting, of course if you're fighting Kazan, I will show you what to take from them later, but if you're fighting the Great Horde, there's no need to take too much from them because like I said, we will be getting permaclaims on all of their provinces later. So in this first war versus the Great Horde, I recommend taking these 2 provinces up here in the state that we need to convert one of them to Orthodox, and also these 2 provinces over here so we can open up an expansion route to Crimea. You can also take all their money. And that's enough for a first war versus the Great Horde. Now it's time to chill a bit and later fight another horde. If you fight Kazan, of course later you're gonna be fighting the Great Horde. In this war I did also make Uzbek and their alliance with Kazan, which should make my war versus them a little easier. Once you've freed up a Diplo slot or 2 from annexing your subjects, you can try and find some allies, preferably someone that'll help you out versus Poland and Lithuania, maybe someone like Hungary or Bohemia or even Austria. Let's see in my case who can ally me, and in my case these nations would ally me, so actually Bohemia, they are a pretty good ally to have, and I'll probably even ally England too, to be honest. Once the Renaissance has spawned, it will start spreading through your country, and we're not necessarily gonna be deving for it, but it is a good idea to activate the Encourage Development State Edict in Moscow and just dev Moscow up to 30. It will help us reach the age objective to have a province with 30 dev, and it'll also speed up the Renaissance a bit. At this point, we're chilling, waiting for our truce with Novgorod to expire so we can fight them again, and in the meantime, we're also gonna be converting some of these 3 provinces right here that we took in our first war versus either the Great Horde or Kazan. And of course, once we've cored up the provinces that we've taken in the Tambov area, we will be full stating that and activating the Enforced Religious Unity State Edict to help us with conversion strength, although it still probably won't be enough. The best provinces to convert here are this one and this one, since they have less dev than Tambov, and you could even exploit dev to make the dev lower and easier to convert. Of course, this still won't be enough, so you will need to hire a missionary strength guy. For your tier 2 government reform, you should of course take strength and noble privileges. Although later in the game, when you have as much manpower as you can possibly imagine, you can swap to curtail noble privileges. But at that time, will tax even matter? So of course, we're going with strength and noble privileges. And once your truce with Novgorod has run out, it is time to declare on them again and completely wipe them out. We'll be declaring for this province right here. Now, for your first idea group as Muscovy, you have lots of choices, to be honest. You can take a mill idea group, whichever one you want. You can take Diplo, you can take Trade, you can take Religious, you can take Admin. The choices are pretty much infinite. The classic opening as Muscovy, in my opinion, is Trade and Religious, and you can do it in either way. You can take Trade and then Religious. Of course, this will slow you down from teching up faster to unlock the second idea group faster, but Religious is super strong, since we'll get this CB and it'll enable us to expand more rapidly, or you could open up with Trade to buff up your economy first and then take Religious. The choice is yours. You can weigh the benefits and drawbacks of taking each one of these first, but I do recommend opening up with Trade ideas first. This will help us route all the trade from Asia that we're going to be conquering all the way over to Novgorod. We definitely need trade. And of course, once you've obliterated Novgorod in this second war versus them, you will be full annexing them and taking all their money. And that's Novgorod done. Just 2 wars, easy as that. Once you completely wipe them out, you will be able to take the mission, conquer Novgorod, and we gain permaclaims on the entire Russia region. We do already have most of it though, so it doesn't make much of a difference. Now that that war with Novgorod is done, it's time to chill a bit and core those provinces up before declaring on the hordes again. At this point, you may be struggling with governing capacity as well. As we can see, I'm almost over it. It wouldn't hurt to give the Cossacks or the Burghers, I do recommend the Cossacks, one of these privileges right here for more GovCap. And once you convert a province over here, you will be able to take the mission Tame the Steppes, which gives us permaclaims on all of these areas right here. Now, at first glance, these provinces are actually pretty hard to convert during this point in the game. But by activating the Enforced Religious Unity State Edict, by hiring a missionary strength guy, by having decent patriarch authority, and by having enforced unity of faith, you will be able to convert it in about 5 years. And I've just converted it now, so it's time to deal with Kazan, or in your case, the Great Horde, depending on who you didn't fight first. When fighting the hordes the second time, once again your biggest advantage is gonna be tech. As we can see at this moment, I have Miltech 6, Kazan over here has Miltech 4, and Crimea has Miltech 5. Those are the nations I'm pretty much gonna have to fight, along with Chagatai 2. You guys already know that Tech 4 relative to Tech 3 is one of the most powerful tech advantages you can have. If you have Tech 4, you can take down anyone with Tech 3, but that advantage is even bigger when comparing Miltech 6 to Miltech 5. That's an even more powerful advantage, let alone Miltech 6 over Miltech 4. And that should be the situation in your case too. As we can see here, Kazan doesn't even have feudalism yet. In my case, it's 1469, let alone the Renaissance. They can't even imagine having it. Crimea does have them, but they're still a tech lower than me. So that's gonna be your biggest advantage in these wars versus the hordes. So I'm gonna go ahead and declare on Kazan here for their capital of Kazan. It is the highest dev province, and I'm gonna focus on Crimea first. And once you're done fighting Kazan, you will take as much as you're comfortable taking from them. Of course, if your first war was versus them, instead of the Great Horde like me, you would have taken a province from them over here, the province of Penza, which you would need to convert to Orthodox, of course, and of course you would want to take the gold mine in Bashgird over here, maybe give Perm back to Perm, since it's their core, and take their capital of Kazan, since it is a level 3 fort and a pretty high dev province. So, in my case, of course, I am gonna give that back to Perm right here. I'm gonna take Bashgird for myself, their capital. They also have a level 2 center of trade in Sarai down here, so I am gonna take that as well, and that is quite a lot of admin points to core, quite a lot of aggressive expansion, quite a lot of overextension. Of course, I could take more, as we can see right here, but it will be a lot of admin points to core that. It will be a lot of AE, and it would slow us down a bit versus these guys. Not that a coalition would form or that it would declare on us, but it would just make things slower. So in my case, I'm just gonna take something like this from them, mainly basing this on the admin points I will need to spend. Maybe one more province, something like this. And I'm also gonna take some money from them. Like I said, take as much as you want or as much as you can. You can be a little less or a little more aggressive than me. During this time, we're chilling and coring the provinces we took from Kazan or the Great Horde, or maybe even Crimea, depends on who you were fighting over here in the provinces you got claims on, and of course you would be annexing these smaller subjects over here. We're annexing these guys first instead of Perm, because we do have a mission right here, Consolidate Russia, which requires us to own all those provinces directly, and then we get some Perma claims and Dev. Of course, once you do core up the province of Bashkiria here, or Zlato-Ust, as it's called in Russian, I guess, you will want to full state it, full core it, activate the Encourage Development State Edict, and dev it up to 10 production. It's gonna be super expensive because it is mountains, but hey, gold is gold, right? Don't forget to lower autonomy as well. For your second idea group as Muscovy, of course I do recommend religious ideas, since we took trade for our first one. If you took religious for your first one, you will take trade for your second one. That is the best opening as Muscovy in my opinion. Once you do annex all of your small subjects in this part of your nation, you will be able to take the mission Consolidate Russia. We gain a bunch of dev in all the capitals of all the vassals that we used to have, and we also gain permaclaims on these regions over here. So on Finland, where the Livonian Order and Riga are, and on most of Lithuania, the southern part, which is actually not Lithuania proper. Of course, if you're familiar with Orthodox mechanics, you already know how the icons work. The one I like to have active most of the time is the icon of Elusa right here, which gives us -3 national unrest mainly. It helps versus rebels, but really, you guys already know that all of these are super awesome. You can use St. Nicholas right here to minimize AE and improve relations with your vassals to annex them. You can use St. Michael here during wars. Christ Pantocrator is pretty good when deving an institution, or maybe deving the gold mine over here in Bashgird, and when you want to build some buildings, these are all super great. But like I said, the one I have active most of the time is the icon of Elusa. After you unlock the mission, which gives you permaclaims on these areas right here, you have lots of choices for expansion. You can still continue expanding into the hordes, you can push into Poland, Lithuania, maybe fight the Livonians if they're still here, or maybe Denmark or Lithuania have conquered them, like in my case, or you can push into the Kalmar Union up here to take stuff from Sweden and Norway mainly at first. Now, we did start off with a vassal swarm, and we've slowly gotten it down to one more vassal by this point, Perm, or you may have already annexed Perm as well in your case, but we're gonna be getting that vassal swarm back pretty quickly because there are so many nations to release and reconquer their cores over here. Starting off in the north in Sweden, we have Finland over here. They have cores on these provinces. You can see them highlighted. There are about 7 provinces down here, and I do think it is a good idea to release Finland and reconquer their cores in this war. Moving down south, in this area we have the nation of Polotsk, and they have cores on these 6 provinces over here. I do think they're a good nation to release and reconquer as well. Over here we have Smolensk. They only have cores on these 4 provinces, so I don't really recommend releasing them and reconquering their provinces. Going further down south we have Cheringov. They have cores on a bunch of provinces over here. I do recommend releasing them. Down here we have Zaporozhye. They have only 3 cores. I don't think you should be releasing them. Then over here in this area we have Kiev. They have cores on these provinces over here. I do recommend releasing them. And then over here in this area we have the nation of Galicia Volhynia. I also recommend releasing them and reconquering their provinces as well. So out of all these nations that can pop out over here that I just mentioned, I pretty much only don't recommend doing it for Smolensk and Zaporozhye, but everyone else, you can pop out a core or 2, release them as subjects, and then use them for reconquests in your later wars. And of course, since you probably did just fight the hordes like me, they will be a bit mad, so we will need to push into Poland, Lithuania now, or the Kalmar Union. Of course, you can decide on your own which of these guys is weaker. Maybe Poland doesn't have Lithuania as a junior partner. Maybe Sweden has broken free. You will look for opportunities. And if you've allied someone in Europe like me, they will be able to help you out as well. Let's see right here, if we want to declare on Lithuania, we'll have to fight Poland and Brandenburg along with Moldavia and Danzig. And if I call in Bohemia, sure, we still have more troops than them, but they're still pretty strong with 67,000 troops. If I want to declare on Sweden right here and still call in Bohemia, actually we'll only be fighting around 47,000 troops, which obviously in my case, it's easier to fight these guys first. So that's what I'll probably be doing. But in your case, you can decide for yourself if you'll declare in Scandinavia, in Poland, Lithuania, or in the hordes for your next war. And like I said, now I'll be declaring on Sweden for the conquest of Viborg down here. I'll probably pop out Finland from that province and then take some more provinces up here for myself. And I will call in Bohemia. For your third government reform, it's pretty much up to you if you want to take decentralized or centralized. I do think centralized is slightly better. And if you're fighting Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, here's what I recommend you to take from them in this first war. Obviously, like I said, we're gonna take one province here so we can pop Finland out of it and later reconquer their cores. After that, you can take some more provinces up here that you have claims on from the missions. In my case, they also have this right here too, which means I am gonna take this from them. But if they don't, in your case, it's fine. You can just push more into this region right here, mainly focusing on the Baltic Sea trade node, because if we get a bigger hold of that, it increases our strength over here in Novgorod. So maybe focus on stuff like this over here in Sweden if they don't have stuff over here like me. And I'm also gonna take maybe this, and this too. Yeah, sounds about right. So this is what I'm gonna be taking in the first war. I'm also gonna take some money from them. And that's our first war done. Now we have the province of Viborg right here, which means we can pop out Finland out of it. And there we go, there's Finland. And they have some cores over here, which we can reconquer later. Of course, that's not all we're going to be taking in the second war. We're going to keep pushing into Scandinavia. These vassals that we're releasing, they aren't only to minimize aggressive expansion. That is a big selling point, of course, but we also save a bunch on admin points, since at this point, we are probably working on religious ideas as well. And we're going to want to use the admin points to core provinces we're going to take over here too, since there aren't a lot of nations you can pop out here. Sure, Astrakhan is one of them, but In my case here, I can see that Poland is busy fighting Hungary, so it is a good time to declare on Poland, Lithuania as well. Like I said earlier, declare on whichever of these guys is the weaker one, but in my case, Poland and Lithuania look pretty weak right now too. So I will be declaring on them for the conquest of something close over here that we can pop a nation out of, maybe the conquest of that province right here. Let's go and find it. There it is. I'm gonna call in Bohemia once again. Wolgast won't even join, so this shouldn't be a very difficult war. And now that I feel like I've defeated Poland and Lithuania enough, I feel like I have enough war score, it is time to peace out. So, in this war versus them, here is what I recommend taking. Of course, I recommend taking a province up here so we can release the nation of Polotsk from, and then I recommend going and doing something like this maybe, so we can release a bunch of nations down here, namely Chernihiv in these provinces, then Kiev in these provinces, and then finally Galicia Volhynia in these provinces down here. So something like this. I'm also gonna take these three provinces up here because I already have claims on them from that mission, and then I'm gonna take war reps from them and some money. And this is enough for the first war. It's about 50 aggressive expansions, so people won't be too mad, although they will start being mad pretty soon. And after you finish your first war versus these guys, like I said, we will be releasing the nations of Galicia Volhynia, Kiev, Chernihiv, and Polotsk. And as we can see, we can reconquer some cores from Chernihiv down here, we can reconquer cores for Kiev, we can reconquer a bunch of cores for Galicia Volhynia, and reconquer cores for Polotsk. And that's gonna make the next war versus these guys a lot easier. And it's the same deal with Sweden. Now it's time for me to go take care of some rebels. And by around the 1490s, your game should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off with a weak-ish Muscovy, and of course we took down our first main rival Novgorod. After that, we started pushing into the hordes to unlock the mission, which gives us perma claims on these regions right here, and after that we pushed even harder into the hordes, all at the same time while annexing our smaller subjects, which are located in this region right here. After we fought the hordes, we completely took down Novgorod. It only takes 2 wars to annex them, and we got all of this juicy land up here. And after that we fought the hordes again. Like I said, it was better to fight Kazan first, but if you couldn't, and if you fought the Great Horde like me first, that's totally fine. But in the war with Kazan, we also got the gold mine mine, bumped it up to 10. Now we're making some nice income from gold, and we have a lot more permaclaims on the hordes right here, which we can use to take them down later. After we fought the hordes and after we annexed all of our subjects, we unlocked the mission which gives us permaclaims in Lithuania and in Scandinavia as well as in this region right here, and we started fighting those nations depending on who is the weakest, the Kalmar Union or the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. From these nations, we popped out a bunch of nations, or you're gonna pop out a bunch of nations if you haven't done it so far. Like I said, Finland up here, they have these cores to reconquer, Polotsk over here, Cheringov, Kiev, Galicia, Volhynia, lots of nations to re-establish our vassal swarm with and use them for reconquest. Like I said, down here you also have Zaporozhye. You don't really have to release them, it's only 3 provinces. And over here you also have Smolensk. You don't have to release them either, it's only 4 provinces. But after that, you will continue to do the same things we've been doing so far. Basically, we're gonna reconquer all of our vassal scores, continue pushing into the hordes here, continue pushing into Scandinavia and into Eastern Europe, and later you will be owning this and forming Russia and continuing your expansion eastward by colonizing the provinces, which you can do with the ability or the national idea, should I say, that Russia has. And you will continue to conquer these hordes over here. You'll continue to push into the Caucasus, later in the Balkans, and maybe even in Western Europe, depending on what your goals are. Basically, we'll be minimizing aggressive expansion and minimizing coalitions by pushing into all of these different religions, all of these different cultural groups, and all of these different regions. We'll be fighting Sunni nations over here, Orthodox and Catholic nations over here, Catholic nations up here, and then some other Coptic or maybe even Shia guys down here. Of course, the culture groups do make a difference as well, so you will be fighting a lot of different culture groups, which will help minimize aggressive expansion. It is pretty high for me with these nations, but that's just because I fought them right now. As we can see, it's already gone down with the hordes, because I fought Kazan, then I fought the Kalmar Union, then I fought Poland and Lithuania. Now I'll probably fight hordes again, hit Sweden again, hit Lithuania again, and just spin around your conquests like that and continue to push in every single direction. By this point, our economy is booming. We have a super nice income going. Yes, army maintenance is down, but let's raise it, and forts are down. Let's activate them as well. I'm still making around 10 ducats a month. If I lower inflation, it'll be even more, as it is getting a bit high due to the gold mine we have. We aren't even making that much money from gold. As we can see, we're making it mostly from tax and trade, and that is because of our ideas that we pick, mainly trade ideas. We have a very nice foothold on Novgorod here. We'll get an even bigger one on it once we conquer more into the Baltic Sea. And right now I'm transferring from Kazan and Kiev to Novgorod. I do have 3 merchants because this is how far I've gotten with trade ideas. The 4th merchant, I'll probably put him in Astrakhan to transfer to Kazan and then to Novgorod. And of course, this will help you make a lot of money. Because we also have religious ideas, we will be using the Deus Volt CB later on instead of the regular conquest CBs or CBs that we have claims for, and that will help us out even more rapidly and even more massively. Of course, with religious ideas, we'll be converting all of the provinces that we have over here that are of the wrong faith or the wrong religion. I'm already converting some myself, and that will help us with religious unity as well. You will want to convert everything you conquer. You can even force Finland up here to be Orthodox, force some of these guys down here, if they popped out as Catholic, to be Orthodox, and they'll be converting as well. Like I said, you should have opened up with trade or religious ideas, whatever you want. The choice is yours. I do think trade religious is slightly better than religious trade, but you can decide for yourselves. After we've taken trade and religious ideas, for your 3rd idea group, I recommend taking Diplo or admin ideas, and for your 4th idea group, I once again recommend taking Diplo or admin, whatever you didn't take for your 3rd one. Although the best order in my opinion is trade religious, Diplo admin. Although you could do religious trade, admin, Diplo. The choice is yours. After that, for your next idea groups, I recommend taking military stuff, quality, quantity, offensive, defensive, even aristocratic. You will find uses in all of these idea groups over here. If you're having trouble with your subjects, you can even take influence. The choice is yours. And after this point, you will continue to expand in the same regions. From Uzbek over here, you can pop out the nation of Sibir. They have a ton of cores over here. Further down south, which is also originally owned by Uzbek at the start, in my case it's Nogai and Chagatai, you can also pop out the nation of Kazakh. They have a lot of cores here as well, and that'll help you conquer this region quicker, and there are more nations to pop out everywhere, and that is something I do recommend doing as Muscovy. For your tier 4 government reform, I recommend taking meritocratic recruitment right now, although later in the game you can swap to administrative clergy to get 2 instead of 1 free policies. Later in the game, when you're Russia and you have unlimited amounts of manpower, maybe maybe you even took quantity. You can even swap out of strength and noble privileges, although that plus 10% tax, it isn't gonna do much. For tier 5, I recommend taking general estates, but when absolutism comes around, you should swap to royal decree, and if you max out absolutism over 100, maybe it's 105 or 110 max, you can swap back to general estates. For tier 6, I recommend taking l'état c'est moi, and for tier 7, I recommend taking political absolutism. By this point, we've also been building a ton of buildings. As you can see, I've built lots of marketplaces in all the center of trade provinces. I've built a bunch of churches as well. Apparently Perm has been building a lot of them, and I've also built a bunch of production buildings in all the high value trade good provinces. Of course, you will continue to do this. You will continue to get more gold mines from the provinces you colonize over here in Siberia, and your economy and your religious unity shouldn't be a problem from this point forward. Muscovy has a couple of unique achievements. All belongs to Mother Russia, where you need to start as a country of Russian culture and form Russia. You'll be doing that either way. And then we have Relentless Push East, which requires you to start as a Russian nation and by 1600 own the Siberian coastline. Of course, you don't need a guide that's specific for that, but you'll focus on snaking all the way to Kamchatka instead of fighting everyone else here. I do recommend starting a separate game for that achievement instead of doing a regular Muscovy to Russia campaign. And like I said, by around the 1490s, your game should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is gonna go like mine, this save file is available to all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Muscovy from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/TheRedHawkLive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel. Link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you want to see more guides or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. And you can become a member today and join the Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.